Okay, I'm Nathan Giffen from Vertical Artisans, and this quick webinar is on the stone matrix. We had a wonderful webinar last night. There were hundreds of registrants that were interested in this product. It was a 2-hour long webinar. For sake of time and to make it easy for you guys, I'm going to strip that webinar down to something that is a little bit more easier to watch, faster, and gets straight to the point. So let's cover the basics here of the stone matrix. This tool is specifically designed to help guys with vertical applications who may or may not even struggle with pattern fabrication or the actual design of rock. Even for professionals like myself, I'm very excited about using this tool because it just makes my process streamlined and saves a lot of time. So it's not about whether or not you can carve or not, it's about saving time and increasing profits. So today's standard in stamping there's some things that are going to, I think, radically change with the event of this tool. First off, most of the tools that are out there, which are decent, some of these are just ideas and patterns of stamps that are out there for the vertical market. I don't think that that Country Ledge Formulator is, but these tools are what we basically use in the industry to do vertical stamping with, and these are just some of the popular products that are out there. But each of them have a particular problem, an Achilles heel, and that is they're small, the stone sizes are small, and the more square footage that you have, obviously you're going to see a lot of repetition and a lot of repetitiveness. So people say, oh, you can't get it wrong. Well, if you I've seen a lot of stamp jobs that aren't done right. So even with stamping, as simple as it is, guys still manage to screw it up. They don't keep things straight. They don't keep things level. Obviously, you've got to do that even for the basics of stamping. But ultimately, these stamps are small pieces, small elements to use in the wall, and those are basically limitations. And the big thing that I want you guys to understand is no matter what stamp you're using, you've got repetition, repetition, repetition. It's a small area of square footage that you've got to replicate over 500 square feet, 600 square feet, or even more. So you're going to have replications. And if the stamps that you're using, if you got a 3-set stamp, a 5-set stamp, doesn't matter. Most stamps out there are 3 to 5 set stamps. You're going to use them dozens of times on a wall, and inevitably you're going to see, visually, you're going to see the repetition in the stamp. And the client, if you can see it, the client will see the duplications as well. All that boils down to, guys, is you've got to be very creative. You got to, try to work the stamps in such a way that they don't, they don't look so obvious. A lot of times, guys will retexture stuff to try to help, with the change, to change it up. But this has ultimately been the problem with the stamping industry, is a lack of randomness and its predictability. So that's what the stone matrix is definitely trying to deal with or conquer in the stamping industry. So let's go over this particular tool. There are 6 pieces to this tool. They're 16 inches high by 8 feet long, and they're individually designed. Each stamp has its own pattern to it, but it has an open-ended layout so that you can continue the pattern or the design. So that's in and of itself really a departure from what most vertical guys are using today. The other thing is there's very light texture on these stamps. I did not want to put heavy texture in the stamp because I don't want you to rely on that texture. These are not feathered edged, so if you hit these edges really hard, you're going to leave a line in the wall. The goal is not to leave the texture in there. The goal is to leave the design in there. So the texture comes later. So I didn't put any definitive texture, so very basic, non-descriptive texture is in the actual bed of the mat. These are also color-coded for ease of use. There are 6 colors. They come, each color will always be the same stamp. So when you get your set, they'll be red, blue, yellow, light blue, green, and tan. If something happened and you lost the tan one and you order the tan one, it'll always be the same. So not only is that good for tracking the tool itself, but when you're on the wall and you're wanting to stay random and you just use the red one and the blue one, you know that you're going to have to move to the yellow, the light blue, the green, or so forth. So that's going to be also a big help, having a color-coded tool to help you. They're also completely interchangeable, end for end and top to bottom connectivity. So that's also very, very important. So here's a look at a prototype. You can see the pattern of the stone that's there, and once again, there's very light texture in the bed, and it's the actual pattern and the design that's raised. It goes about 1.25 inches deep, and so you're going to want about 1.25 inches mud on the wall. You can go 1 inch of mud on the wall and still get the pattern, but if you're like me, there's a lot of other tricks that come along to stone facing that you want to do, and that those of you who have already taken the Vertical Artisans Core Curriculum and the Introduction to Stone Facing are very aware of all the tricks that are involved with vertical carving. But this particular tool is designed so that you can get the patterns that are proper into the wall and save you a lot of time. Also, because these patterns are so deep and the ridges are designed so that it shows the stone interaction, the clean out is essentially eliminated. Clean out and design are the 2 largest time sucks on the job site when you're doing vertical work. So let's take a look at how this works. First of all, you apply your vertical decorative concrete, the mix of your choice, to your substrate. In this particular picture here, I've got a guy using a quick spray unit. This is probably one of the most efficient ways to get the product on the wall. And then next up, if you don't have a quick spray unit, you can use a mortar sprayer or you can hand bomb it. This particular method gets a lot of material up quickly. I need to also tell you that you should already have a pretty good scratch coat on the base. As you can see, the scratch coat's already there, and I'm just loading up that wall with about, I'd say probably 2 inches of material is probably what it really turns out to be. The next step is to trowel it up or slick up the surface so it's relatively smooth. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be relatively smooth. It doesn't have to be perfectly flat either. It can still be bumpy. It can still have, the undulations in the surface. You don't need to flatten it out like a plasterer. You just need to get it slicked up so that it can receive the pattern. Now, the next step after you get that done is to shoot it with release. You could use liquid release, or you could use powdered release. The choice is completely yours. There's benefits to both. And pre-texture is also optional. And we'll get into the texturing in just a minute. So after that's been done, then you select your particular skin. Now these are the prototypes. They're not in different colors, but then you would take that skin, and then you would literally just stamp it right into the wall. Now this particular skin was stamped. It just took a few seconds to embed, but you can see my pattern is already laid out, and it's ready for texturing. It's ready for any other type of manipulation that I want to do. The texture skins, there's a huge variety of texture skins that are out there in the industry. I've got probably over a dozen texture rollers that you can use. These tools are wonderful. They're exponential in what they can do. If you have 3 tools in your hand and you roll, you start using the tool in multiple aspects on the mud, you can create a variety of really interesting textures. Also, there's texture trowels for those of you who use advanced methods as described in the Vertical Artisans Core Curriculum. You know how to use these texture trowels. They get in places where the texture rollers can't, or the texture pads can't. But that getting past the texturizing process, now we have 3 sets of skins laid down out straight, and this is basically an end for end. This is about 24 feet, linear feet. The picture's cropped, but it's about 24 linear feet And this would be an example of just 3 of the skins laid up. So let's take a look at these skins all together. These 3 patterns are 16 inches high by 8 feet long, and actually they're doubled, so they're 16 feet long. So these are all the skins together, and when you put them all together, you have 48 feet of an original pattern. So if all you did was just use these skins straight up and just didn't you could also wrap these around, and if there's any kind of anomalies, you just simply trowel it over and take your wedge tool and correct it. If there's an outside corner that doesn't line up properly, not a problem. You can just erase the pattern that you don't want and leave it as a bigger stone, or combine 2 stones to create 1 stone. Very simple to use. But these are the first layouts that you would use for, like, say, a seat wall. So there's 6 of them. I'll get into the math in just a little bit. But here's an example of a seat wall that I did that was 24 inches high. It took me 4 days to carve this. You can't see the full picture, but there's 116 feet of this seat wall that's up there, and it took me 4 days to carve it. I have no doubt in my mind that I could have stamped 116 feet both sides in 1 day. Now, I would have had to bring on another 1 or 2 workers to help mix, because obviously that's the #1 problem that I would need, is guys mixing and just throwing it out on the wall. But going back and slicking it up and stamping my designs, no problem. The rest would be texturizing and other tricks in the trade that I do to make stuff look, unique. But other than that, I could have taken at least 2 and probably 3 days off of my workload had I used my own tool. At this point in time, the tool was under construction, so I couldn't use it, unfortunately. But let's take a look at some of the dynamics of this tool. It's only 16 inches high, but we've got a 24-inch high wall. That's with the seat cap. So we've got about a 2.5-inch seat cap. So ultimately, we've got about a 21.5-inch space that we've got to convert into texture. There's several methods that you could use when you're dealing with weird shapes that don't fall into a 16-inch increment. So let's kind of cover those. First of all, you have an overlap and the overlap and extended methods. Each skin has a 2-inch variance, and I'll cover that in a minute with the example. And so when you put 2 16 inches together, you're going to get 32 inches. However, you could shorten those by overlapping the design. Each skin has an overlap easement, if you will, of at least 2 inches and sometimes even 3. So you can shorten up the skin and get into easily about a 26 to 28 inch pattern. And even if you don't want to do that, you can extend the pattern out with your wedge tool. So let's take a look quickly at some of these examples. These are the tools themselves. These are pictures that I took of each individual piece. So this is the actual set. They're not color coded yet. These are the masters. But I wanted to give you an idea of how these things actually interact with each other. So in this first example, we've got a 16-inch high piece and 8 foot long, and each of these marks, as you see with the black arrows that are pointing, correlate with the dots that are also on top. So that being said, you can see that we can simply move these pieces into one another. And let me get these pieces layered up here so I can show you. Okay, so here we've got this piece right here, and I want to, if I leave it like this, it's 32 inches. Okay, but if I tighten it up and I shorten it up, I can subtract that and reduce those inches to, something that might fit something custom. I can also do it at the top. You can see I have this, let me make a line here to show you exactly what I'm referring to. This line right here, I'm talking about this area of the skin, and I'm also talking about this area of the skin. I've left at least 2 inches, and in some cases more, of an overlapping section, if you will. So when I go to, let me erase this. When I go to move this piece in here, I can tighten up that by simply lining up that where those joints are, and I can tighten that up and create a smaller stone and still staying in my pattern. So now I'm not 32 inches. I'm somewhere in the 26-inch mark. Now, another aspect of making up distance is to extend out the lines with your wedge tool. You've got 32 inches, you've got 28 inches, let's say you need a little bit more. You simply take the pattern, you take your piece, and you set it in the middle of your, like for retaining walls, you can set it in the middle and then just simply extend out the lines to the top of your wall and extend the lines down by simply creating larger stones. So you don't have to be, pigeonholed into one particular stamp. You can have a little bit of freedom to customize the top of this, or just to take the wedge tool and extend those lines, those grout lines, all the way up into the top of your piece. And then, of course, from the side, it just looks like this stone right here is completely big next to a couple of the smaller stones. And then, of course, on the bottom, you can let this ride right out into the ground. So that's another element. I also want to say at this point, too, you don't have to overlap or extend. If you have like 28-inch height and you start at, let's say you start at the top and you go down 16 inches, that's fine. Well, you've got about 12, 14 inches left. Take the second tool, the second pattern, line it up, and fold it, and just fold it right down into the ground. These are flexible. You can bend it. So if you don't want to do any of this extra overlapping, or if you don't want to do any of these extending lines out with the wedge tool method, then simply just fold it and bend it down. Of course, you're going to have to come back. There's probably going to be about a radius of 6 inches that wasn't able to be stamped, but you can easily go back and just correct it because you're looking at the pattern. Just run those lines into the ground or run them up underneath of your sill. So those are 3 methods that you can deal with for odd shapes or odd designs. Now, the next picture I'm going to talk to you about here, this is an actual project that's being examined by a contractor here locally in the Chicagoland area, and he does very large embankments, and this particular embankment is about 8 to 9 feet high and about 104 feet long. And he uses a mountain dry stack skin normally, but he wants to change it up because when you're 60 feet off the road and you're looking at a wall and you have a skin like the mountain dry stack, the pattern is very small. So here he is, he's 6 feet tall, and this particular graph is, I think, 9 feet 4 inches high. Okay, so 6 feet tall is essentially 4.5 stamps high. So this contractor here is 6 feet tall, and you're looking at the first section here of the patterns. Each of these sections, each of these 8-foot sections, is a completely different pattern. So as I travel and I go down this wall, there's no pattern that is the same because every single one of these skins is arranged in a different pattern, a different shape. So these skins, and it took me an hour or so to put all this together, but all I did was I took the skins, I reversed them, I flipped them upside down, I switched them, I rearranged their orders, and I just kept on going. So I have a huge wall, 104 feet long, that is completely unique. The only replication that you see is any of the little stones that are found in the middle of the skin, but all the rest of the stones are different, and that just adds to a complete random pattern. So as a whole, this huge wall, 9 feet high by 104 feet long, was done with 6 skins, and that's not even the best part. Because it is such a large wall, let's say that I wanted to go in and alter the wall and put in some huge pieces. I can totally do that because once this stamp is in there, I can go back with my trowel and I can suck up any number of these lines and open up to much larger stones. I don't have to worry about the perimeter because the perimeter has already been identified. All I got to do is just basically erase, and I'll do that now. I'll just take a tool here, and I'll work. Let me tell you where I'm going to be working because you won't be able to see it. I'm going to work in, let's see here, get my pen here. I'll just pick an area that I can alter. I'm going to work in this area right here. All right, so I'm going to come over here with my tool, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to erase those particular lines with my trowel because the mud is still so soft, and I'm just going to follow the outside edge of it and go over it with my trowel and re-slick it. No problem. And so I'm just going to create a completely different rock. The outside is already identified by my tool, and I'm just going to make this huge, massive boulder that can be texturized with my rollers, and I'm not going to worry about it anymore. I'm just going to leave this rock just massive. I'll even come down here and give it a little bit of a small kick out. So here we go. We've got this tool. We can go in and erase these lines to create some massive pieces. And now we've got a very unique stone that follows a perimeter. And you just pick and choose the areas that are best suited for that. And if you need to make an alteration, make an alteration. But now you can go back if you don't like something, or something needs to be weird, or maybe the client wants some bigger stones combined with that. Just feather all those back in. It's just like a dry erase board. If you don't like a smaller patch, consolidate. But these are all pretty, these are all pretty big stones, as you can see the difference between one of the most popular stamps in the country, versus the stamp that's that you're offered with the stone matrix. So this expands your ability to create bigger stones visually, and especially for larger areas. That's really a benefit, because each of those a big wall with a lot of small stones has a very busy effect to it. A bigger pattern of stones gives you something that's going to be a little bit more softer on the eye. So that being said, that's one method that you could use to even create, bigger stones. All right, let's get back to our PowerPoint here. So here we have an example of 4 foot high by 16 feet, and this would be perfect for like outdoor kitchens. You could also shrink these down to 32 inches if you simply overlap them. Or you could use a 32-inch height and extend it just a little bit to get to the 40, or reduce the 48, 8 inches down to get to the 40 as well. Or you could leave it at bar height that adjoins to the outdoor kitchen. Once again, you can see the pattern is completely different, and this is perfect for outdoor kitchens. This type of height, outside corners. One of the questions that was asked last night: can you round a corner with this? Absolutely. It can go around curves, it can go around corners, it can go around edges, and still consistently keep the pattern that you're putting down. You might have to make a slight adjustment if an outside corner falls on an edge, or you might like that. I don't know. It just depends on how it looks. Other heights that are 6 feet high, this is about 6 feet high. This would just be 4.5 stamps. You can extend out the bottom or extend out the top, or cheat the middles to get the height that you want. Here's an 8 foot by 8 foot, 64 square foot piece. Once again, random sections. As I go through these next several photos, I simply changed, a few of these patterns, or a few of these out. You can't really tell exactly which ones I changed, but the patterns are different. But I'll give you a clue. The one that has the the gray splotches on it, all I did was switch it out to the bottom and then flip one of the centers or the middles. Same with this picture. I flipped a couple more just to give a variance. Now, when I say endless possibilities, I really do mean that. Each time that you go to stamp a design, you're going to have 12 options because you have the 6 tools, but you also have the inverted effect of that tool, or the pattern of that tool. So in a 16-inch high wall or a seat wall with an 8-foot run, I have 12 options. So that's simply, the 6 tools, and I can put them straight up or I can put them straight down. So 12 is our factoring problem, or our factoring number. So I called my college professor, my math college professor, and I said, hey, I've got this unique tool. I want to know what the possibilities are. I explained to him, the way the tool works and the options, and he says that's not. It's just a factoring of 12. So each time that you go a next section or an 8-foot section, it's exponential and it's times itself. So in a 16-foot run at 16 inches, I've got 144 possible combinations that I can use. In a 48-foot run with the same 6 tools, with 12 options each time I grab it, it gives me 2.9 million combinations. Now, let me just say this. That sounds impossible, but it's not. Now, also, I might add, in that particular 2.9 million, almost 3 million options, you have using one of those options is using the exact same tool for all 48 feet. Now, nobody's going to do that, okay? So let's just take out, 2/3 of the options just in case they have something ridiculous like that, all right? Now, 2/3 of the options don't account for those types of anomalies, but you still have 1 million options in just 48 linear feet. So to say that you have tens of thousands of options is an absolute easy statement and a confident statement that you can say. There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of options. And the bigger you go, 32 inches, it just continues. An 8-foot wall, 64 square feet, you start out with 2.9 million options. And the longer you go, it really gets into the billions. So the dynamics of the stone matrix are just that. It is a matrix of stone that just continues to get really robust. And when you factor in the other tricks of the industry, troweling things out, adding texture, each of these stones could be unique. Of course, after they're texturized and shaped differently, you've got the colorization of it, and that adds to a complete another level of uniqueness. So this is just a tool that is going to really give you a tremendous leg up, in the industry, and you don't have to be a professional, sculptor like me. I went through and I took the time to design this tool in such a way that all you got to do is just be able to keep things level and have some common sense about you, and be willing to mix mud and throw it on a wall and slick it up, and then come back with some texturizing tools. You can get really in depth with it. You can spend a lot of time on a section and really tweak on it and put nuances and fracture it and create fissures and all kinds of goofy things. But to overcome the pattern problem, guys have a time freehanding patterns in the wall. So this particular next couple slides shows you just the randomness just between the stones. I want you to just focus on one part of this stone, and then I'm going to just toggle it between another set, same skins, just flipped around, and you can see how everything basically changes. Each one of these represents 64 square feet. That is a different pattern. So it really gets exciting when you can go to a client and say, look, I'm going to give you an original designed wall. You can easily say that. You can easily say that you're going to give somebody a pattern that is completely unique, because it is. So let's get to the price. The pricing of the stone matrix is $200 a piece, or $1,200 for the set. There's about 120 to 130 pounds that comprises a set. 120 to 130 pounds of urethane rubber by itself runs about $600. So, you know, by the time you factor in the fabrication of the tool and everything, we are giving to you this particular price, this particular tool at a steal. I can tell you at some time in the future the price will go up, but we're offering this piece to you, this tool to you, for $1,200. If you make an order, if you make an order before July 22nd, we will take $200 off. That is just an incentive to get this tool. First come, first serve. We go into production the week following July 22nd, and so products will ship. You know, whoever orders first, the products will ship out there. So if you can get that $200 off before July 22nd of this year, 2016, that is an incentive to be the first on the market with this particular tool. Okay, so the tool is ideal for any vertical work that you're going to do, and trust me when I tell you this, it's going to save you time. All right, hardscape systems. The tool works perfectly because it's 16 inches off the ground. The tool works perfectly with the hardscape system that's out there for seat walls. This particular, the picture that you're looking at right now with the hardscapes, this is material. All materials involved with what you're looking at right now is under $40 a linear foot. You got the stone matrix. You can pump this kind of stuff out left and right and really generate some good revenues. Or if you're doing retaining walls or one-day wall methods, where you're not using a hardscape system, but you're pulling material out of the back of a truck. Once again, this tool can immediately put in a pattern, a texture, and when you're doing one-day walls methods, or for those of you who are stone makers out there, using the stone matrix is absolutely critical because you use no time whatsoever in thought of design or pattern. And with the one-day wall system, you are fighting the clock because at the end of the day, you've got to convert 6, 8, even 10 yards of material into something that's attractive. So the stone matrix just eliminates clean out. It eliminates all that, cleaning out your pattern and your design, and puts you right into the driver's seat of putting in the effects that you want to put in. So this is something that is, I think, going to be extremely beneficial for you. Once again, it's a $200 off, which brings the tool cost to $995. If you're interested in the stone matrix tool, please send an email to me, Nathan at Vertical Artisans. Include your name, shipping address, phone, and put stone matrix in the header so I can get to you right away. The other discounts that I'm offering with you on this is the Vertical Artisans Core Curriculum. It's regularly $14.95. The offer for $9.95 will expire June 22nd. This year, and if you use the promo code STONE, you can take advantage of a $500 discount for that. So remember to sign up for free on the Vertical Artisans website at verticalartisans.com for free teaching. It doesn't cost you anything to become a member of Vertical Artisans, but we do offer courses on the Vertical Artisans site for a cost. But you can take the Hearts for free, you can take the Moongate lessons for free, and there's a ton of free information in the free video section. Also, get involved with verticalartisans.ning.com. That's the official Vertical Artisans forum to surround yourself with like-minded artists, information, photos, and projects. Also, get a chance, if you can, go to hardscapesystems.net and take a look at that. For examples of that and for examples of other foam core construction, go to AmericanSeatWalls.com, which is a site that offers examples of what can be done with seat walls and also hardscapes. And then, of course, Walt Tools, the manufacturer of the stone matrix, they're a great asset for tools, trowels, roller skins, and such. So all orders will be processed through Walt Tools unless you order it through your local concrete distributor. There are also other manufacturers that are jumping on this, and they will also be offering this tool for you as well. But this is a pre-release webinar for the Stone Matrix. I appreciate the time that you've given me. My name is Nathan Giffen from Vertical Artisans, and I hope that you guys take full advantage of the Stone Matrix.